Welcome back to the garage, where we're continuing work on my 1989 BMW 325i E30. In today's video, we're going to be doing a huge interior restoration on this car by replacing the dilapidated seat covers. Let's take a look at their condition. Starting off here in the front, we can see that both the driver and passenger seats are very weathered. The leather has tightened up and started to crack all around and generally just look really uncomfortable, to be honest. You can see that the driver's seat is in far worse condition than the passenger seat. The leather's actually torn on the bottom here and just ripped up, and it just looks pretty gross. All right, let's move on and see the back seat. And the story's pretty much the same for this seat as well. The sun has gotten to this and it has tightened the leather and pulled the stitching apart near the top. Overall, this also looks very uncomfortable and cannot be restored as is. There's just nothing you can do. The leather is just stretched too tightly, so it will be new seat covers for back here as well. So when it comes time to replacing these seat covers with new OEM alternatives, there's only a few companies I found online that actually offer them for this car. The company that I'm going to go with for new covers is called Lseat.com. If you just search for E30 seat covers, it's usually the first post that comes up on Google. And it appears, based on reviews I've seen online, that they have pretty high quality seat covers and they're priced really well. However, I've reached out to Lseat. I sent them pictures of my seat covers and they said that they don't have this style or this pattern in their inventory yet, but they would like to add it to their inventory, and they asked me to remove the old seat covers, box them up, and ship them down to them so that they can create new templates so that they can start offering it on their website. And as an incentive for me to go through that work and send them down, they said I would get a discount on the new seat covers that they make from those templates, about 50% off. So I said, well, why not? Let's try it out. Now, the part that kind of throws a wrench in this whole idea is that I won't actually be putting the front seats back in this car. I actually went out and bought some used sport seats out of a wrecked E30, and I want to recover those and put those in the car. So let's take a look at these secondhand sport seats that I picked up. All right, so here they are. These are sport seats pulled out of a wrecked BMW E30 convertible, actually. You can tell they're out of a convertible, or even a coupe, really, is because they have these reclining mechanisms here on the side bolsters that allow it to swing forward. Now, as you can see, the covers on these actually are a very desirable houndstooth kind of pattern. They're cloth seats, but as you can tell, this is the driver's seat. It is in very bad condition. There's no way to even rescue these, or there's no point in rescuing these. You've got cigarette burns, torn seams, and the vinyl's all ripped, and then the previous person who'd been in here tried to reupholster this side bolster with some really tacky looking vinyl, and then they put in some like pillow foam or something in here because probably the foam underneath was broken up. So I know a lot of you think, yeah, these are really desirable seat covers, but they're just in really bad shape, and I couldn't find anyone offering this fabric anywhere or even offering seat covers in this fabric anywhere, so we're not going to go this way. We're actually going to put leather seat covers on these things. So the passenger seats fared a little bit better, but it's still kind of tatty everywhere, so really it'd just be better off to recover the whole thing. Now, on sport seat covers, you do have this kind of hard backing with this vinyl overlay, so I will have to paint this with some vinyl paint because I am going with a black colored leather interior just like it would have originally been, so we'll have to vinyl paint that. And to fix up this jank padding here on the side bolster, I've actually bought brand new BMW side bolster and center foam for sport seats. They still offer this. It's not cheap. It's definitely almost like $200, so if you have to recover one of these seats, just know it's not a cheap affair. But overall, the benefit of putting sport seats in are the more aggressive side bolsters, so it holds you in position a lot better. They're more adjustable. They have this little adjustable piece that swings out, and then a couple other adjustments inside of the seat itself. You can see all these levers on the side here, and overall it's just a better seat. It's more comfortable and it's more performance oriented. Downside is, if you actually want to go get some, they do cost a pretty penny compared to the standard seats. So my car came with the standard style seats, and they're okay, but they really are a lot flatter profile in every way. So I'm hoping once these are recovered, the driving position will be a lot better. In total, I'll be ordering 3 different pairs of seat covers: rear seats, standard front seats, and sport front seats. So I'm only getting the discount on the seat covers that I'm sending in, so I'll have to pay full price for the sport seat covers. but overall I'll end up be paying the same amount for the rear and sport seats totaled with that discount, so it just kind of works out to be about the same. I'll take those new seat covers for the original seats, recover the original seats, and maybe I can sell them on the used market and make a little money back on this whole operation. But overall, I'll just be happy to get new leather in this car in the end. So let's get to removing the old seat covers. Alright, so we fast forward about 4 months and I finally have the new seat covers in my possession. This took a lot longer than I thought it would. I have to be honest, Lseat, if you're looking for good communication or high speed in getting the whole process done, I wouldn't go with them. But they do eventually get it done, and they do offer things at a lower price than anywhere else, so if you've got the time to wait, you can go with them. Now, I think if you just order a seat cover that's already available on their website, as in they don't have to make a new template for you, you can probably expect about a month turnaround time. But again, if you're sending in covers that they don't yet have in inventory and they need to make new templates, my experience, it's at least 3.5 to 4 months, and communication's not super great. It's always through email. There is no phone number. So that's just my experience. I wouldn't say I wouldn't recommend them, but there were some times in that process where I didn't know if I was actually going to get my seat covers, because I hadn't actually paid for anything yet other than the shipping costs to get the old seat covers down to them. But they followed through, they got the seat covers made, so in the end, I am happy. They appear to be of high quality, so let's take a look at them. Each pair of seat covers come in these vacuum sealed bags, so it looks like there couldn't be 2 seat covers in there, but there are in fact 2 seat covers in there, because I've already gone in and opened some of these bags. These are the new rear seat covers, the bench seat. So you can see the leather, it's black leather and looks really pretty nice. The stitching is pretty thick and it looks like it'll hold up really well. On the inside, it's got this nice felt backing, or padded backing rather. And overall, I'd say these are really high quality. Now these back seats run about $299, and then you have to add shipping on top of that. But really, again, this is as cheap as you'll ever get new covers made for. And as you can see, these are made very well if you have the time to wait for them. So I've also opened up the standard front seat covers here. Again, these aren't the seats that I'll be putting back in the car, but maybe I'll recover them and sell them on Craigslist or something like that, see if anybody wants them. But so these are well made as well. This is the headrest and all that. Haven't opened the sport seat covers, but I assume quality will be about the same. Now, before we can go in and start putting these new covers on these seats, we want to make sure that we have a hog ring plier and hog rings kit available. So I bought this off of Amazon. This came as a kit. You get the pliers here and brand new hog rings. I think I have over 500 hog rings here, which should be enough to do the back seats and the front seats. So these hog rings are what actually keep the cover tight against the seat frame itself. They hook onto small metal bars that go throughout the seat. As you can see right here in the back seat, here's a bar right here that they hook around. So they hook around the seat cover and then go onto the seat frame like that. You use these pliers to kind of crimp the rings together to make a complete circle so it can't come undone. So you'll definitely want to get this. It's not very expensive. I think it was under $30 for all this. So just wrap that into your total seat restoration costs. All right, so to get things started, let's recover the rear seats. Let's get to it. All right, so that's the back seats recovered, and that was probably the easy part of this whole operation. Now it's time to recover the front sport seats. First objective is figuring out how they come apart. Let's get to it. halfway through disassembling my first sport seat, I've hit a terminal setback. Let's take a look. As I was taking this seat apart, I started to notice how much rust was on everything. Everything from the sliders to all of the fasteners and fittings, even the springs underneath the seats themselves had just a layer of rust. And while I didn't think much of it originally, it turned out to be a critical failure point as I started moving further along. So just looking at the sliders here, you can see that there's quite a lot of rust and corrosion buildup. Again, nothing that would set off too much of an alarm. You can probably brush this off and repaint them and make them look pretty nice. They still move, so I figured, it's salvageable. This goes on the bottom side of the seat. The actual fabric wraps around this bar. See, there's quite a lot of rust on there. So these seats were pulled out of a convertible, and I'm guessing that top was ripped and water was just pouring in and creating moisture in there and just started eating away at all the metal parts on these seats. But the real critical point happened when I started getting to the hinges on the bottom seat pad. So these seats are held in place by a little locking tab, and you can rotate them around. And when you rotate them to this position, they should slide off this central shaft and just pull off real easily. And I know they're supposed to come off real easily because when I was disassembling my comfort seats, that's all it took. You just unlatched this little hub right here and slid it to this position, and these hinges would just slide right off this central shaft. Well, guess what? Of course they aren't. In fact, this outer bracket is no longer attached to this central silver looking hub right here, and these really should be one. So we can see that this central silver piece is fused to this inner pipe of the seat, and I've tried every trick in the book. I've used rust penetrant all through here. I've let it soak for a day, and I've used pry bars on the back side of here to try and get this hinge pulled off the shaft, but nothing is working. I've even used a little bit of air hammer on the back side of this just to see if I can jostle something loose so it'll slide off. But these are basically welded to the shaft, and there is absolutely no way to get these off without completely mutilating something and rendering it useless when it comes to reassembly. So we're at the point where basically I've got sports seats that cannot be disassembled. If you can't get these hinges off, there's no way to actually recover any of this because everything ties into this back point right here. So since these are rusted that shaft, these sports seats are basically just only good for parts and barely any parts at that point. Looking underneath the seat, you can see the corrosion follows through to the seat frame in many ways. Up here, you've got a lot of rust. Now, if I'd known what to look for when I went to buy these, I would have probably not bought them. I paid way too much as it is, so I'm pretty distraught about that, but that is project car life in a nutshell. Setbacks are just the name of the game. So where does this setback leave me? Well, it means that I no longer have a set of sports seats to put the new covers on. That alone is pretty disappointing because it means now I'm gonna have to go out and find another pair of sports seats, and hopefully they're in better condition than what I have right here. Basically, I just have to eat the cost that I paid for these sports seats, and unfortunately, that's just how project car life goes. You get setbacks all the time, and it's just a matter of pushing on, spending some more money, putting more time into it, and just persevering through these difficulties. Now, the silver lining in all this is that I do have new seat covers for the comfort seats that originally came in this car, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and continue doing. I'm going to recover the comfort seats, so at least I have some new leather in this car until I can find some replacement sport seats. Really, being here in Kansas City area, who knows how long it'll take for some sport seats to come up locally. It could take a while. So we'll just go ahead and recover the comfort seats and get this video moving along and get this car closer to completion. Let's get to it. Another unfortunate update now with the bottom seat frame of the driver's side comfort seat. If we look over here, this side stamped metal panel has a humongous crack going around it there. And this is where the hinge for the seat back goes, and obviously that's fatigue cracked into oblivion. We have a huge, at least a 1/4 inch gap right there. All rigidity has been removed from this area because that crack is there. Definitely won't reassemble it looking like this now that I know it's there. So I'm going to try and pull these pieces back together with some pliers and then use the MIG welder to stitch this back together. So we have a structurally sound piece once again. Again, setbacks continue, but hopefully this is one we can fix. Let's get to it. Crisis averted. This is not the prettiest looking weld, but it is definitely strong, and it'll hold up just fine to whatever comes its way. So that's now strong, not flexing anymore, and good to go. All right, let's put the new seat covers on. So I've got the passenger side comfort seat torn down, and guess what I found on the left side of the bottom seat frame? Same thing as on the driver's side. It's cracked along this pivot point where the hinge goes. It's not nearly as bad as the driver's side, but you can see a crack going all around the circumference of the original weld here. See if you can see it in the camera a little bit. It's probably hard to see, but there's a crack going all along here. So looks like I've got to weld this up too. Well, time to get the welder back out. That weld is all the way around the perimeter of that pivot point. Again, that is a structural member, so you want to make sure there are no cracks there. So, weld it up. Let's get to replacing the seat covers. Okay, so now all of the seats are recovered with fresh leather seat covers. However, there are some wrinkles that are throughout all the seats, and that's slightly down to me being new to ever doing this. I've never actually reupholstered any seats with new leather, and also it's just a matter of new seat covers that need to be basically shrunk a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and try to shrink some of these wrinkles out with a damp cloth here and a cheap heat gun. Picked this up at Harbor Freight for like 15 bucks, so really cheap, and we're gonna see if it works. The idea is that we just kind of introduce a little bit of moisture to some of these wrinkles, and then we hit some of the spots for, I don't know, I'm not really sure how long it'll take to bring out wrinkles, but basically you keep the heat gun at a certain distance and slowly work the wrinkles out. So, never done this before, we'll give it a shot. Hopefully the results are what we're looking for. Let's get to it. so I've taken out most of the major wrinkles and all of the seat covers, and I think they look pretty good. They look much better than they did before. They're not so balloony and baggy. I gotta say, this little $15 heat gun is a boss. That worked awesome. Held this on there for about 10 seconds, hit it with a damp cloth to kind of work the wrinkle out, and I just kept going through that cycle on each wrinkle about 3 times, and pretty much all of them came out. So definitely a result. Now that's all left to do is just get these back in the car. Let's do it. So that was a lot of work to get these seats recovered, but they're finally back in the car. Let's take a look at the results. All right, so starting off here in the front, so we've got the standard seats that I've recovered here. Unfortunately, didn't get the sport seats in here, but eventually that will happen. But these, honestly, these look really nice. So the heat gun was able to take out a lot of the major wrinkles, and I think just having the car out in the general sun, especially this summer, will help get the rest of the wrinkles out of these seats. But overall, they look really nice and they're really comfortable to sit in. And of course, this black leather mixing with the rest of the colors of the interior really makes one uniform looking interior. It looks really nice. And of course, with the nice new dashboard in here, the whole interior doesn't look like it has 230,000+ miles on it. Not at all. All right, so the back seats turned out pretty well as well. So they're a little bit baggy down here at the bottom, but I think as they begin to wear in and go through some heat cycles, things will look a lot nicer. These little seatbelt holders were a real pain to take off and put back on. I cracked it a little bit, but it went in okay. Doesn't fit perfectly, but I think again, as these seat covers tend to wear in, they might look a little more natural in there. The seat backs of these front seats look really awesome. I mean, for a car for the 80s with these kind of curved seat backs. In fact, you need this recessed area in the seats to even sit back here because it's so tight. I mean, just look at this. I don't even have the front seat pushed all the way back, but it's fairly tight fit. I mean, if you're any larger than 5'10" or 5'11", that's about what I am, you're not gonna fit back here on one of these E30s. So definitely a tight fit, but it is a pretty sweet looking interior when it's all done. I really can't wait to get these sport seats in here because it'll just make it look that much better. But yeah, the interior overall is almost finished. Now, I never did a video on this, but I did install a different parcel shelf back here with the premium style speaker boxes. I just like the look of this compared to just a plain speaker being drilled into the shelf back here. These give a little bit more finished look. So didn't cover that in a video, but I did pick one of these up used on eBay for about $120, and I think it really helps the back side of this car when it comes to the interior. It looks really well finished. All right, so that pretty much wraps up this video. I know it was a long one, but it was worthwhile. Lots of good stuff that we covered in this one. Now, I do have a line on another set of sport seats that hopefully I will have by the next video, and we'll get those recovered and into the car. But until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon.